Hello and good evening, and thank you for joining us for another exciting edition of Wine Down Wednesdays. My name is Marc.
I'm Sandra.
I'm the Dancing Bandari.
And today we're going to be talking about local whiskeys of India. In fact, today you'll see several different whiskeys in front of us, and we're going to be discussing the different flavor profiles, how they look, and how they smell in the glass. In fact, we talk a little bit about the difference between whiskey with an EY and whiskey with a Y, and what that has to do with the Gaelic spelling of whiskey. In fact, whiskey with an EY is Irish whiskey, and whiskey with a Y is Scottish whiskey. Just a little bit of a tidbit for you before we start off. Now, I'll definitely allow you to pick the first bottle that we'll be tasting today.
Which one? This one?
Whichever one you'd like.
All right.
It's a crapshoot.
So till the time we open it up, I'll tell you from where its production comes up. This is Amrut Prestige. It's a fine whiskey. It comes from, here, let me get the tag off. Got a tag on it.
Well, I'm assuming it comes from India.
Yeah, it comes from the state borders of Karnataka. And it says Kambipura. And need to rub out the sticker. Bangalore.
Bangalore, nice. Well, Prestige I've been pretty excited with. And the fact that they're these tiny juice boxes, definitely I've seen so many people in the local area enjoying these things. This is my first time I get to try them.
So this is a Tetra pack, and you need to open it from the top.
Yeah, this whole time I thought it was kind of like a milk or possibly an apple juice box where you get a little straw that goes into it.
Yeah, because you generally get milk bottles like these.
Now, while he's opening this, Melisandre, you told me you weren't so excited to try these whiskeys today. Is there a reason for this?
Basically, they're local whiskeys from Karnataka, and I don't have a good feeling about them.
Is it safe to say they don't have the best reputation?
Yeah, I know.
Well, I'll be quite interested to see what your thoughts are on how they smell, look, and how they taste. In fact, I can smell that one that you just opened right away. Let's go ahead and pour ourselves a little taste of this whiskey in all three of our special glasses. And I want to talk a little bit about whiskey while we're doing this. It's important that you open up your whiskey with a little bit of water. Today, for our own purposes, we're going to discuss how they look, see, and smell without the water. But I always encourage you, if you're going to try a single malt whiskey or any whiskey, exactly what you're seeing, smelling, and tasting with a little bit of water. It makes it open up the bouquet a little bit better. So first I want to talk about the color of this whiskey. Definitely a deep gold or an amber color.
Yeah, very deep.
Yes, and what do you think this smells like? I mean, the way we smell whiskey is several different ways. One of my favorite ways that I'd love to teach the two of you is putting my hand, clean hand, on top of the whiskey, doing a quick jump, and then rubbing my hands together like this, and then smelling them. And then what you're doing here is you're allowing for the whiskey to break down, the alcohol to break down, while you're still able to enjoy the malted barley and the malted different styles that they've chose to make these whiskeys. What do you smell? Besides for alcohol, obviously.
It smells really strong.
It's very strong.
Yes, not so much of a malted smell. Definitely doesn't have any caramel.
Not something very specific, but more of alcohol and
It hits your nose.
yeah,
Right when you
it goes up directly to your brain.
Oh,
Hits
yeah.
you hard.
Well, I'll tell you right off the bat, it's definitely a hint of flowers. But they're almost like daffodils or some kind of flower that you would bring into the hospital. It has some kind of ammonia smell to it as well. Now I can see, arguably, why you're a little upset to try these whiskeys.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to add? How much alcohol or what
It
proof
says
is this?
75% proof.
So if this is a 75 proof whiskey, then that means that it's 33.5% alcohol, roughly. About half of what the proof is would be the percentage of alcohol by volume. Let's go ahead and try this whiskey,
Yeah.
our Prestige whiskey. I think that we'll try it without water today, and if we need to, we can add a little bit of water. I just want to give each other a quick cheers for our Wine Down Wednesday. This whiskey has a pretty well-rounded finish, surprisingly, and it has a little bit of a malted barley taste to it. Is there anything that you can tell me about this whiskey without making too harsh of a...
Base.
It's damn strong.
It's relatively strong.
It hits your throat the moment you take it. It's not like other whiskeys that are.
So relatively smooth is a loose way to put this. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, probably.
What about the finish of this whiskey?
Not very smooth.
There's no finish in the mouth.
Very
Burns
harsh.
down your throat.
Sharp finish. Hopefully this will be the least impressive of all the whiskeys that we have to try today. As we try all different local spirits, wine, and beer of India, this is a necessity. Let's go ahead and dump our whiskey and try our next whiskey for the day. As I talk about this, I want to talk about mixers for whiskey as you go ahead and open up your next whiskeys for us. In fact, you suggested soda as an accompaniment to whiskey. Is there something that you like to drink with your whiskey, Melisandre?
I like it with Coke.
With Coke, whiskey and Coke, a classic presentation. I enjoy my whiskey with a little bit of sweet vermouth and a little bit of agnosteric bitters, which is definitely a mix of herbs and twigs and berries that give you a medicinal flavor to the whiskey. And adding sweet vermouth and bitters to your whiskey gives you a Manhattan. And as he's opening up the next Tetra Pak, I'll talk to you a little bit about another classic whiskey here that I like to make. And this is the one that I like with a little creme de cacao and maybe some ice cream. And in that way, you're making something like a Brandy Alexander or a Brandy Freeze. One of my other favorite ways of making whiskey is an old-fashioned. And in an old-fashioned, you muddle a cherry and an orange with a little bit of some simple syrup or some sugar. Then what you do is you would take your whiskey and let the whiskey macerate with the fresh fruit that you had just mushed, and then you fill it with ice, and then you would put soda in there. And what you get here is an old-fashioned, probably one of the more popular styles of cocktails that you would offer for a whiskey. So our next whiskey, what do we have here?
It's Officer's Choice.
Oh, the Officer's Choice. It must be good.
It's from the 8th milestone, Tumkur Road, Bangalore again.
So again, Bangalore here, very local. Roughly it takes you about 8 hours to get there. I'm really excited to try this whiskey. I think it should be a little bit darker in color than our first one. Let's go ahead and pour this whiskey.
Even this one's got 75 proof and strength is 42.8.
I see, it's 42.8% alcohol, which literally means it's 84 proof. So you can arguably tell here that there's very little laws in terms of labeling when we talk about whiskey. Now, right off the bat, I've noticed that this whiskey is a little bit darker in color, a little bit more amber. Is that safe to say?
A little more than the Amrut that we had previously.
A little bit more amber. Is there anything that you notice about this whiskey other than that darker color?
It's it doesn't have that much density. It's more lightweight.
Yeah, it looks a little bit lighter in color, but a darker shade of a lighter color. I really enjoy these differences between the whiskeys. What does this whiskey smell like? Oh, this one has much less of a sharp smell to it. In fact, I'd like to go ahead and tell you that this whiskey has a little bit more caramel smell to it.
It's like this chocolate hint.
Ooh, a little bit of chocolate.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty good. Not too bad. I'll maybe do a little bit of this while I'm in the process. Let's go ahead and try this whiskey. And as I like to always wish you both a congratulations. Oh, much smoother than our first whiskey.
Yeah.
Much lighter.
I definitely agree. I get some hints of chocolate, but it's more like a milk chocolate, not a dark
I got it with
chocolate.
walnutty taste.
Oh, walnuts. I like that. That's a perfect explanation for this one. I'm excited to have you on the show today. I'm very excited. What about the aftertaste? Is this longer or shorter than the first one?
No, this one's shorter.
Ah, excellent. So shorter aftertaste, but more enjoyable. Is that safe to say?
Yeah.
In fact, all of these whiskeys that you see in front of you today cost under $10 for every one of them together. So let's go ahead and we'll dump out this whiskey and let's hit the ground running, as I like to call it, and go ahead and try our next whiskey. And I'm excited to tell you to see what type of whiskey are you going to choose as our next whiskey for this day.
I think since now we've gone from the stronger one to the lighter one, we should probably have 8 p.m. now.
I've always wondered, Alessandra, why do you think as he opens this, it's called 8 p.m.?
Probably because in India the night starts at 8 p.m. and that's the reason why people want to drink
From
from 8 p.m.
Is it from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m.?
You never know. Probably.
I really like that. In fact, when they offered this to me, this was the first Tetra Pak that they told me I had to try. So I'm quite interested. In fact, most of these whiskeys that we're going to try today, I've never had before. The only one that I've ever seen would be the McDowell's.
Which is one of the most selling products.
So I'm arguably excited to try a lot of these, and it seems as if this packaging is one of the most unusual marketing tools that they've used.
When we came here first, we were also shocked seeing this.
No, in the
Bombay.
starting when we came here, we had Old Monk. These guys are like 1 year younger than us, so that's why. But we had in bottles, like glass bottles, and then when Old Monk got shut down, so at that point in time, when these guys came up, it started off with the Tetra Pak.
I think there has to be some differences, just basically because of the cost of the bottle.
Yeah, that's
so. Arguably, when they make these different alcohols, they're taking in consideration what the packaging is going with too. As you can see, we're going to pour a rare blend of Indian whiskey and Scotch.
This is 75 proof, and strength is 25. And this is again from the
same region
that Officer's blend comes from.
75 proof. That's going to be quite strong, as maybe the last two were roughly the same. I'm excited to try this whiskey. Let's go ahead and pour this one. And as we continue on, I'm here to tell you next week we'll be going over the exciting wines of India. So you'll have to stay tuned as we continue on with our Wine Down Wednesdays here at Manipal at the WGSHA, which stands for the Welcome Group of Hotel Service Association.
Welcome Group Graduate School of Hotel Administration.
I was pretty close. I think I make my own examples of everything. So looks relatively similar than the first two, correct?
Yeah.
Now this is a Scotch whiskey blend here, so we're expecting that it should be a little bit more flavorful than the first two.
Yeah, and a little more light.
A little bit lighter and maybe a little bit smoother as well.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a Scotch?
Well, I'm happy that you asked that. In fact, a whiskey can come from almost anywhere in the world, where in fact a Scotch has to come from Scotland.
Oh yeah.
Pretty good, huh? I love those type of questions on our Wine Down Wednesdays. So the look is the same. What about the smell here? What does this smell like? Oh, this definitely has a more grain or a more wheat smell to it. It has a little bit of like a roasted cereal smell as well, or a hot porridge.
You smell wheat.
Yeah, like a lot of wheat. Yeah.
I think I enjoyed the smell of the previous whiskey, the Officer's Choice, more than this one.
It gives me a little bit of smell of the rose, the flower rose.
But a little bit like rose water.
Yeah.
Or maybe some wilted roses left out after a while. Is that safe to
It's a
say?
mild rose.
Yeah.
Well, I love the fact that the two of you make these whiskeys sound so spectacular. Let's go ahead and try our whiskey.
Yeah.
Well, for I as well.
Yeah. It's got more of a tangy.
Yes, a little bit more acid to it,
Yeah.
correct? Maybe a little bit too much alcohol. I agree with the alcohol content, and I also agree with the tangy flavors. It has a tremendous amount of acid in the fact that my mouth is salivating right now, much more than the previous two whiskeys. And this seems to be a little bit more well-rounded. Is that safe to say?
Yeah.
What about the aftertaste of this one? Any chocolate?
No.
Any walnut?
No. This one's got just the way it smells more of a like wheat.
Yes.
It tastes, when you have a raw, whenever you take like a bunch of
Grainy.
yeah, grainy, very grainy. So you take it in your hand, you eat it, raw, it's kind of that way.
I think that that's safe to say, maybe like a hearth bread or a bread that's been partially cooked.
Cooked, yeah.
So is it safe to say that you enjoy this whiskey more or less than the last two whiskeys?
I kind of like it, but the finish.
I think I would prefer Officer's Choice over this one.
You like the Officer's Choice and you like the more mild flavors. Let's go ahead and dump this whiskey out as we continue on with our Wind Down Wednesdays. And I'm excited to see the next whiskey that you're going to choose for us today. And as we talk about this, I'd like to ask you, Melisandre, have you been able to ever try any of these whiskeys before?
I've tried McDowell's.
So the McDowell's is the only one. And you, sir?
I've tried HPM.
The 8 p.m.
Just once, yeah.
Well, I'm sure neither of you would admit it if you tried most of these. Is that
No.
safe to say?
If I would have, I would surely told you.
we only drink high-end whiskey where I come from, which is totally not true. And of course, as he's opening this, I think he's chose Bagpiper's whiskey. I'd like to maybe possibly pose this question to you. What type of food do you think would go great with these whiskeys?
Like you said, a chicken tandoori.
Oh yeah, I think chicken tandoori. Do you have a special food that you enjoy with whiskey?
Yeah, something that's very spicy and something that's come out of like a flammable tool. Something like a tandoor. Yeah,
Flambe.
yeah, like a flambe, something like that.
I'm okay with that. Right off the bat, I'm thinking garlic naan. I'm going garlic naan.
That goes well with tandoor.
Oh, yeah.
Garlic naan goes well with tandoor, so yeah.
And then I guess I have to come up with a dessert because whiskey I always feel as a digestif or a way for you to enjoy the digestive part of your meal. And of course, with any good whiskey, maybe a chocolate souffle. Ooh, I think I'm okay with ice cream. That sounds delicious.
Or probably something like chocolate mousse cake.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Chocolate pudding is like right up my alley. And what flavor ice cream are you going with?
Good chocolate or the vanilla.
I'm thinking
whiskey flavor.
Butterscotch.
Butterscotch. That's
Butterscotch,
exactly
yes.
what I'm thinking. You read my mind. Let's go ahead and try our Bagpiper whiskey. Is there something you want to tell us about it?
Yeah, this I don't know why this leaked from the sides. This comes from the famous Vittal Malya Road that is somehow correlated to Vijay Malya.
Excellent.
Yeah, and it's from Bangalore. Yeah, and UB Town. So yeah, I'm correct. So since it's from